Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Dear Masuma, the show that tries to answer your questions and to see if we can help you with any of your deepest concerns and your worries. My name is Sana Araji and we are here with Masuma Ja'far. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
So we've got another viewer who sent a question or a letter to us, and it says, I'm having slight issues with my husband. I am a newlywed and it's been less than 2 years in all honesty, and my husband is one of the least affectionate people I have ever met. I don't think he could even properly cries unless it's Ashura. We have great conversations about everything, Islam, food, travel and the future, but generally speaking he is cold and I am a very warm person, and although I do feel like I love my husband, it's more like in a way where he's just my friend. That's not really what I wanted in a marriage, and to be honest, I'm not asking for an abundant amount of romance, just at least a cuddle or some form of physical affection. What should I do? I don't want to get divorced.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think there's a lot of things in here that we need to look at. First of all, the fact that she mentions that he doesn't cry unless it's on Ashura. Generally, within most cultures, boys are brought up to feel that it's they're less of if they cry. So it's, that they learn to hold back those feelings and emotions, and it's girls who are supposed to be emotional and boys aren't meant to be. So even as adults, men tend not to show emotion because it's a sign of weakness. And I think things are changing nowadays. I think, people are realizing that it's not a sign of weakness. And the fact that he can cry on Ashura shows that, it shows the strength in emotions. I think people look at emotions as something that makes you weak, whereas it actually gives you strength to and motivates you to put it into action, the feelings that you have. So I think one of the things that, not for her specifically, or even for her when they have kids, is to ensure that they bring up their children to show that emotions is a good thing. But for her specifically, she talks about her, her expectation of what is romantic or what is considered as cold, and she says her husband is cold and she's warm.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is based on her perception of what is considered as romantic due to what's been fed to us through the media. Yeah. So like the Disney movies of, where the prince will come and, he will, come on his horse and take the princess away and they will live happily ever after. That's not real life. And we, without realizing, subconsciously take that on, thinking that that's how our marriage is going to be.
Right.
And it's not. Marriage is not a Disney movie, and I think that's important. Also, it's important to recognize that men and women are different. Even men within men and women within women are different. So you have people who are feelers and people who are thinkers. And it doesn't mean that he loves her any less.
Right.
He may be expressing it in different ways. So again, we have the 7 love languages, where some people are very much into physical contact, some people want gift giving, some people want words of appreciation. So there's different ways of showing love, and you have your own love language that works for you, but you've got to recognize that there are other love languages, and your husband may be showing you love in his way rather than in the way that works for you.
Right, okay.
So it's important to have the conversation and explain to him what makes you feel loved.
Okay.
So it's actually sitting him down and saying, you know what, I know you love me, but I need to feel it, and the way I feel it is by maybe you holding me, sitting next to me when we're watching TV, or, just kissing me, or whatever it is,
Contact,
exactly,
yeah.
Because obviously that's important to her, and she feels that, he doesn't show that, but he's not showing it because he doesn't love her. He's not showing it because that may not be his love language.
Yeah.
It may not be what he's grown up with. Again, if he's grown up in a very conservative family, he wouldn't have seen his parents showing affection to each other, so he wouldn't know how to it's not been role modeled to him, so he wouldn't know how to do that.
Maybe she has been brought up in a family where affection has been shown in that way.
Exactly.
So she might feel that actually
That's
that
how
person
love is shown.
Exactly, and if they're not showing me that, then that means they don't love me, or they could relate those two together.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and also maybe role modeling it for him. So I think again, the way we're brought up as women, we expect the man to make the first move.
Okay.
So, you know, I mean, she's married to this guy, so it's okay for her to sort of, you know, hold him, hug him, kiss him, and maybe she should do that, and maybe through that, then he'll learn if you know, and he might actually enjoy it and then reciprocate.
Okay. Yeah.
So, you know, if this is her needs, and then she needs to have her needs fulfilled, and it's not wrong for her to fulfill her needs by initiating it herself.
Right. Okay.
And I think that's important, because I think we sort of seem to think, no, if he loved me, he would come and hold me. No, if you love him, you would go and hold him. So it works both ways.
So is it a sin? For example, I know if it's the other way round and the male requires more physical contact from his spouse, that like Islamically she would need to ensure that she does provide that attention to her spouse. Is that the same for the other way round? For example, if a wife wants that same attention from her husband, does she still have the right? Is he sinning if he doesn't give her that physical attention?
There are lots of hadiths that talk about. There's a lot of hadiths which talk about showing affection to your wife, and from the perspective of just holding her, being with her, telling her how much you love her, because women require that much more. But from a fiqh perspective, is it a sin? I would say no, unless he's not fulfilling his duties at all. I mean, like, he has to every so often, but if he's not at all, then yes, there's a problem there.
Okay.
But for the other way around, it's usually men require it more than women, and therefore it's not that she has to initiate it. It's not that she has to give him anything. It's a matter of she shouldn't deny him.
Okay.
So there's a difference in the wording.
It's quite tricky, because sometimes on a female perspective, they might find out, well, they're denying me love and affection.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I know of people where if they're not getting love and affection, it doesn't need to be physically. Yeah. They may say, well, you know what, I won't attend to your need because you're not attending to my need. And then there becomes a dispute, and then it becomes kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like you're using it against that person.
And this is where your egos are coming into play, and
Yeah,
they're both sort of fighting each other. And again, I think if we learn to do things for the pleasure of Allah rather than for the pleasure of each other, then these things don't come into play. Because no matter how you behave, you're going to be answerable to God. How I behave, I'm going to be answerable to God. So even if you don't give me what I require, I'm still going to give you what you require, because that's what God's told me to. And therefore I will be rewarded by him, and my expectations are from him. So it takes the ego out of play. It makes you a much more relaxed person, because you're not doing it for him expecting things from him, or he's not doing it for you expecting things from you. You're actually doing it to try to be the best human being that you can be. And that's in your role as a husband, as a wife, as a I don't know, parent, whatever. It's like in any role that you play. If you can do it for the pleasure of Allah rather than for mankind or for the creation, then you will do it better if you do it for God, because you'll not only do it for him, but you'll do it in the way he requires you to do it. Yeah. So I think that's really important. I think, when we get pulled down into, okay, what are my rights as a wife and what are his rights as a husband, and I'll only fulfill his rights if he fulfills mine, it doesn't work. Yeah. Marriage, that's not a marriage. It just doesn't work. And you're constantly fighting each other. And it's like, who's going to give in first? And that's what I'm saying, if we don't know why he's not affectionate. He seems to be a really nice person. They seem to get on, because she says that they talk about everything and anything else, and they're really good friends. So it's not that they don't get on, it's not that he's treating her badly, he just doesn't seem to be able to show her affection, and there can be so many reasons for that. And again, if it's a need that she has, then she should converse that to him and let him know. And also she should initiate it. She should, because it's her need. So she should sort of try to push for it a little bit.
Okay.
The other thing from a psychological perspective, there are so many studies that have shown that when there's skin-to-skin contact, it actually releases hormones called happy hormones, which actually make you a much happier person. And it connects you to the person that you're having that skin-to-skin contact with as well. And it's beautiful because one of the studies actually showed how when a man's in a relationship where we're not talking about the whole physical thing, but just skin-to-skin contact where there's, holding hands and cuddling and kissing and things like that, he's less likely to look at other women, even when those women are right in front of him or, sort of pushing the agenda. So they did the study where, they had a group of men who had the physical contact at home and, skin-to-skin contact, and then they had a group of men who didn't. And they saw that the group of men who didn't were more likely to stray and look elsewhere.
I wonder, yeah.
And also within their own happiness, they're a lot happier. And it works for women as well.
Oh, right.
So not only will she be fulfilling her need, but she'll be ensuring that she's keeping her husband happy because it'll release happy hormones within him. She'll make sure that he's not looking elsewhere and he's content. And so there's a lot of reasons why, as women, I think we should initiate this physical contact, which I think we've been brought up from a culture perspective not to.
Yes, a lot of women who maybe a lot back in the day, I would say, they weren't kind of taught to do these, or it's just it's frowned upon, or you should let the man come to you.
Exactly.
But like you said, the woman should initiate if she feels like she requires.
And even
attention.
if she doesn't require it, why not?
Exactly.
It's a halal relationship. Why would you not want to show that affection? And also, I think one of the other things culturally is that we're taught not to show PDA, physical PAD. What is it called? Physical.
Is it the PDA?
Yeah.
I don't know the exact abbreviation.
The physical, where you show sort of physical attraction in public, physical display of attraction or something.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Yes,
But we're taught from a Muslim perspective, this isn't the done thing. Again, is it from a Muslim perspective or is it from a culture perspective? Is there anything in Islam that says I shouldn't hold my husband's hand in public?
Oh, okay.
Do you see what I'm trying to say? It's like, I'm not saying, obviously, don't do something that will make other people feel uncomfortable in public, but just to hold my husband's hand, or, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And within your own house as well, it's like if my husband's leaving for work and he kisses his children, sort of before he leaves for work, why wouldn't he just kiss his wife as well? And again, it shows the children that there is love between the parents, because a lot of the times I think parents tend to argue in front of the kids, even though they try not to. A lot of parents will argue in front of the kids, but they won't show any physical affection in front of the kids. So the kids grow up thinking that the parents don't love each other, and that's quite difficult to grow up with.
They avoid because they think it's not good for the children to see any forms of. Because I know some people who do that. They do have a wonderful relationship, but they don't display it in front of their children. And I don't see like you said, there's no problem if you're sitting on the sofa, you're all together, and even if it's just physical, like touching of the skin or your hand on their knee or something like that. For the children to see that kind of loving atmosphere. Exactly.
I think that's really important. And also then they're able to, it's role play to them. So then they know how to behave with their spouses when they grow older and when they get married. I think it's important. I think obviously there has to be a limit to how far you take it. It has to be respectful, but I think there should be a little bit there. Yeah. So I think that all of that is really, really important.
And I was going to say, I know you spoke before saying that perhaps this individual doesn't know how to, or they don't. The way they display their affection is different. Should she look at how he displays his affection towards his children? Maybe overall he's an individual who doesn't kind of overly smother his kids, kiss them, hug them. So it may not be just with her. It could be just his character. And maybe she should see it as in, well, you know what, it's nothing to do with me. That's just his personality, who he is. and how he displays his love is different.
Yeah, no, I agreed if that is the problem. But the problem may be that he's been taught that there is a different way you display love to children, and there's a different way you display love to your wife, and there's a different... So it may not be that this is the way he displays love, but it may be that he may be very affectionate to his children.
Okay.
But because, kids are much easier to hug and cuddle, and they'll come and hug and cuddle you, and then, whereas with an adult, it's much more difficult. Again, he may feel, if he does, maybe he may get rejected, and there may be, we don't know what's in his background and how he's grown up and what baggage he's coming into the marriage with. And again, these are conversations that she should be having with her husband. Right. Not from a perspective of, okay, tell me what's going on in your life, but from a perspective of, okay, this is what I need. And I'm just wondering how easy or difficult you're going to find that, to be affectionate. And actually sort of spell it out. Not just, I need you to show me more physical affection. What does that mean? So sort of actually give him examples. I'd like you to sort of hold my hand when we're sitting together. Just put your arm around me. Just give me a cuddle every so often. Just so actually sort of explaining to him what it is that she requires.
Yeah.
Maybe they can do the questionnaire which shows you what love language you are.
Oh, okay. You can actually do that then.
Yeah, so it's online, so you can actually do the questionnaire which talks about the 7 love languages, and then they can discuss it, because then she can sort of explain to him that this is her love language, he can explain to her that this is his love language, and then they can sort of come to a compromise. Because again, a lot of the times we show love in the way that we want to be shown love, but that may not necessarily work for the other person.
Yeah.
So if she maybe even if she shows him a lot of affection, because that's what she considers as love, he may not see that as love. He may require maybe words of affection rather than physical touch.
Okay.
He may require maybe acts of service. So, helping in whatever way around that, the chores and so forth. So it depends on what his love language is. And he may require maybe gift giving. And a lot of the times we think that we as women should get the gifts. It's like, I had so many conversations with women when we talk about anniversaries and how, my husband didn't get me anything for my anniversary. And I was like, okay, so what did you get him?
It's so true, yeah.
But and I'm like, it's it's both of your anniversaries. It's not a birthday, it's both of your anniversaries. So why are you expecting from him but not giving to him? Exactly, yeah. So again, culturally, it's how we've been brought up. I think, and if he's someone whose love language is gift giving, he's not going to feel loved.
Okay,
if he's not getting it. So it's nice to know. I mean, you can have 2 or 3 love languages. You may not just have the one, and that's fine. Okay. And it's not a 100% accurate science or something, but it's something that then you can have conversations about.
Okay,
and it opens up the word. It opens up the world of conversation, and you can actually then discuss it and things like that, and then sort of let him know what you need. I think that's the most important thing.
Okay, and you can access that online. You said you can do that's interesting. Inshallah, I guess they can try and do that. I might try and do that myself, to be honest.
And I think the last thing I would say to her is, when she talks about, I don't want to get divorced. I'm sorry, divorce should not be in your vocabulary at all. Not with a relationship like this. It's like they're getting on, they're friends. It's like, this is something that is so easily sorted out.
Okay.
That she shouldn't even, the fact that she's thinking of divorce, even though she's saying she doesn't want to get divorced, the fact that it's in her vocabulary will come across to her husband. Right. And I think she needs to be very, very careful of that. Divorce is not something that should be in her vocabulary.
So what about if she's tried everything and her spouse just refuses to want to kind of compromise or to do any of these things? Should she just live the rest of her life kind of accepting the fact that her husband is like this, that they live a happy friendship, marriage, but it's not fulfilling her desire? Like, where does the line, where when do you kind of say this is too much? Or
I don't think anyone can tell you. I think it's a very personal journey, and it's you have to decide what's too much for you and what's not. but the fact that they get on and hopefully, I mean, they've only been married 2 years.
Yeah, it's
So,
quite new.
yeah. So hopefully, you know, once they get settled into the marriage, once the kids come along, they're going to have physical interaction for the children to come along.
Yeah, very
maybe
true,
that might make it a little bit easier then for him to be more relaxed with her. Again, it depends on what the problem is. And, you know, they can go for counselling, they can go for marriage counselling, they can... there's so many different things
options,
that they can do. It's not something that requires a divorce, I feel. And again, it depends. It's a very personal thing. But I think because divorce doesn't have the stigma that it used to have, people think about it very, very quickly and maybe go down that route much quicker than they should. And I think there are times when divorce is accepted, and it, you know, and that's why God's made it allowable. Although it's the most disliked allowable thing by God, it's there. So there are times when it is needed, and it shouldn't be frowned upon when people get divorced, because we don't know their circumstances, we don't know why they went down this route, and we don't have the right to judge them, and we shouldn't. But I still feel like we need to sort of use it as a last resort, and not have it in our minds from the beginning.
Of course, and like you said, because she's been married for 2 years, it's still fairly new. You're probably still getting to know each other, and I'm assuming they don't have children yet, so you know they're still kind of probably with each other all the time. And maybe, I know you had said before in previous shows, maybe you would need to fulfill certain needs with friends and like, I don't know, colleagues or other people, and not expect your spouse to fulfill everything, because that won't be possible. And like you said before,
so it's like we do before you get married, you have so many different friends, and each friend fulfills a different emotional fulfillment. So like, I'll go to a friend for maybe when I just want to have fun, I'll go to a friend when I want to have some advice, I'll go to another friend when I want to, I don't know, talk about religion, and I'll go to another friend for I don't know, something, like something else, or maybe intellectual conversation or something, so I'll have different friends which will fulfill different needs. And when I get married, I expect my husband to fulfill all those needs, and it's not possible. And again, it's I think she seems to have a husband who she really does get on with. I mean, like, she's calling him her friend, which is huge. There's very few marriages where a husband and wife can actually say, we are friends. I think that's beautiful that they're actually connecting as friends.
Of course,
and I think if she now sort of, first of all, I think, yes, there may be problems in his way of looking at it, but there may be problems in her way of looking at it as well. So I think the concept of, how much of this Disney movie thing have I been sucked into? How much of that, subconsciously do I expect in my marriage? So again, sort of, I think reflecting on her own understanding of what a marriage should be is important, and having those conversations with her husband.
Inshallah. And thank you so much, Masuma, for that. And I really do hope this has answered your question and your query. And I'm sure other individuals have also had similar worries and concerns. So I really do hope we've helped to answer any of your worries and your concerns here. And please do keep sending in your letters and your questions, and we will put them forward to Masuma. So please do take advantage of her knowledge. And inshallah, we will see you again for another episode of Dear Masuma. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.